The heart monitor was still beeping. The nurses had just cleared the room. Elise lay in the hospital bed, exhausted, her body shattered from 12 hours of labor, holding her newborn daughter for the very first time. She expected a kiss from her husband. Instead, she heard the click of her mother-in-law's heels and the rustle of stiff paper. They didn't bring flowers. They brought a divorce settlement. They thought they were discarding a poor, helpless waitress. They had no idea they were declaring war on the richest woman in the Western Hemisphere. This is the story of how the Hawthorne family lost everything the moment they crossed the wrong mother. The sterile smell of antiseptic usually made Elise nauseous, but today it smelled like victory. She adjusted the thin hospital blanket, her eyes fixed on the small, pink bundle in her arms. Her daughter. Maya. Elise brushed a finger over the baby's cheek. "We did it, little one," she whispered, her voice raspy. The door to the private suite at St. Jude's Medical Center swung open. Elise looked up, a tired smile forming on her lips, expecting to see Liam, her husband of 2 years. She wanted to see his face light up. She wanted to hear him apologize for missing the actual birth because of a mandatory board meeting. But Liam wasn't alone, and he wasn't smiling. Walking in first was Beatrice Hawthorne, the matriarch of the Hawthorne textile empire. She wore a vintage Chanel tweed suit that cost more than the house Elise grew up in, or at least the house Elise pretended to grow up in. Her gray hair was coiffed into a helmet of steel wool, and her eyes were just as abrasive. Behind her trailed Liam, looking at the floor, fiddling with his wedding ring. "Liam?" Elise asked, sensing the sudden drop in temperature in the room. "She's here. Look at her. It's a girl." Beatrice let out a sharp, derisive huff. She didn't even look at the bassinet. She walked straight to the bedside table, pushed aside the plastic cup of ice chips, and slammed a thick blue folder down next to Elise's hand. "A girl," Beatrice said, the word tasting like vinegar in her mouth. "Figures. You couldn't even get that right." "Mom, please," Liam muttered, though he made no move to step closer to his wife or child. "Quiet, Liam," Beatrice snapped. She turned her cold gaze to Elise. "We're done here, Elise. The charade is over. You've served your purpose, though disappointingly so." Elise's heart hammered against her ribs, painful and erratic. "What are you talking about? Liam, what is this?" Liam finally looked up, his face pale and sweaty. He looked like a man who was about to vomit. It's better this way, Al. We're from different worlds. It was never going to work long term." "Different worlds?" Elise tried to sit up, wincing at the sharp pain in her lower abdomen. "We've been married for 2 years. I just gave birth to your child 10 minutes ago." "And that is precisely why we waited," Beatrice interjected smoothly, tapping a manicured fingernail on the blue folder. "Section 4. Paragraph 2 of the prenuptial agreement you signed without reading. In the event of an heir being produced, the Hawthorne estate retains full custody. However, since you produced a female, the terms are adjustable." Beatrice leaned in, her perfume, something heavy and floral, choking the air. "This is a divorce decree, Elise, and a termination of parental rights. Sign it. We are offering you a settlement of $50,000. Take the money. Go back to whatever trailer park or diner Liam found you in. The child stays with us. We will raise her properly without your low-class influence." Elise stared at them. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the soft, rhythmic gurgle of the baby. For 2 years, Elise had played the role perfectly. The humble orphan, the struggling waitress, the girl who made her own clothes and clipped coupons. She had done it because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not for the sterling name, a name that controlled banks, shipping lines, and half the real estate in Manhattan. She wanted to know if Liam loved the woman, not the wallet. Now she had her answer. "You want to buy my daughter?" Elise said, her voice dangerously quiet. "For $50,000? "It's more money than you've ever seen in your life," Beatrice scoffed. "Don't be greedy. Liam is marrying Sophia Vandergelt next month. A woman of breeding. A woman who can give him a son. We need the nursery cleared out." Elise looked at Liam. "You're agreeing to this? You're letting her take our daughter? You're kicking me out while I'm still bleeding?" Liam flinched. "Sophia's family. They're merging with Hawthorne Textiles. It's business, Elle. You have to understand. We're nearly bankrupt. This merger saves the family. I see, Elise said. The tears she felt forming moments ago evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard rage that felt familiar. It was the sterling blood waking up. It's business. She reached out and picked up the folder. Good girl, Beatrice smirked. I have a pen, right, he. Elise didn't open the folder. She didn't ask for the pen. With a strength she didn't know she possessed so soon after labor, she ripped the thick bundle of papers in half. Then, she ripped them again. She threw the confetti of legal jargon into Beatrice's shocked face. Get out, Elise said. Excuse me? Beatrice gasped, brushing paper off her Chanel shoulder. I said, get out. Both of you. If you're not out of this room in 10 seconds, I'm calling security. Beatrice laughed, a harsh, crow-like sound. Security? You foolish girl. We paid for this private suite. We pay for this hospital. I can have you thrown out on the street in your hospital gown right now. Elise looked Beatrice dead in the eye. The warmth was gone from her face. Her posture straightened, the poor waitress shrinking away to reveal the imperious posture of a born CEO. Try it, Elise challenged. Beatrice's face turned purple. Liam, call the guards. Have this trash removed. We'll take the baby and leave. Liam reached for the bassinet. Touch her, Elise hissed, and you will lose the hand. The menace in her voice froze Liam in his tracks. He had never seen his wife look like this. She looked regal, terrifying. Fine, Beatrice sneered. Have it your way. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises. The settlement is off the table. You get nothing. No money. No support. And trust me, I will bury you in so much legal red tape you'll never see a dime of child support. Come, Liam. Beatrice spun on her heel and marched out. Liam lingered for a second, looking at the baby, then looked at his mother's retreating back. Cowardice won. He followed his mother. The door clicked shut. Elise was alone. No husband. No home to return to. Just a newborn baby and a hospital gown. She let out a long, shaky breath. She looked down at Maya. Don't worry, my love, she whispered, kissing the baby's forehead. Daddy made a mistake. He thinks he broke us. He just broke the only thing protecting him from me. Elise reached into the hidden pocket of her overnight bag, a bag Liam had always assumed contained cheap toiletries. She pulled out a phone. Not the cracked Android she used in front of Liam, but a sleek, satellite-encrypted black device with no logo. She pressed a single button. Arthur, she said into the phone. Her voice was steady, commanding. Miss Sterling? The voice on the other end was crisp, British, and sounded relieved. We haven't heard from you in 2 years. Is the experiment over? The experiment failed, Arthur, Elise said, glancing at the door where her husband had just abandoned her. Activate Protocol Vengeance. And Arthur? Yes, Miss Sterling? Bring the Bentley, and call the Board of Directors for St. Jude's Medical Center. Tell them the owner is currently in room 402, and she is extremely displeased with the service. Rain lashed against the glass doors of the hospital entrance. It was a classic Seattle downpour, gray and miserable. Beatrice and Liam stood under the awning, waiting for their valet to bring around Liam's silver Mercedes. Beatrice was furiously typing on her phone. I've already texted Judge Harper, Beatrice muttered. We'll file for emergency custody tomorrow morning. We'll claim she's mentally unstable, postpartum psychosis. With no job and no home, the courts will hand the baby to us in a week. Liam stared at the rain. She looked different, Mom, in there. She was hysterical, Beatrice dismissed. Common trash always gets loud when they realize they've lost. Just then, a low rumble vibrated through the pavement. It wasn't the sound of a standard engine, it was the deep, throat-clearing growl of pure, unadulterated power. A convoy turned the corner. It wasn't just one car, it was 3. 2 matte black Range Rover Sentinels, armored security vehicles, flanked a long, midnight blue Bentley State limousine. It was the kind of car usually reserved for royalty or heads of state. The hood ornament, a silver falcon, caught the gray light. Beatrice stopped typing. Her jaw dropped slightly. Who on earth is that? Is the governor here? The convoy screeched to a halt directly in front of the hospital doors, blocking the path for Liam's Mercedes, which was just pulling up. "Hey!" Liam yelled, waving his arm. "You're blocking the lane! Move!" The drivers didn't move. Instead, 4 men in black tactical suits stepped out of the Range Rovers. They didn't look like hospital security. They looked like private military contractors. They took up positions around the entrance, hands clasped, eyes scanning the perimeter. Then, the rear door of the Bentley opened. An older man stepped out. He was dressed in a 3-piece bespoke suit, holding a large black umbrella. He walked with the dignity of a man who had served kings. This was Arthur, the Sterling family's most trusted advisor and butler for 40 years. Arthur ignored Beatrice and Liam completely. He walked past them, toward the sliding glass doors of the hospital. "Excuse me," Beatrice barked, stepping in his path. "You are blocking our car. Do you know who we are? We are the Hawthornes." Arthur paused. He looked down at Beatrice over his spectacles, his expression one of mild distaste, as if he had stepped in something unpleasant. "The Hawthornes," Arthur repeated, testing the name. "Ah, yes, the textile manufacturers. I believe your credit rating was downgraded to junk status last Tuesday. Please, step aside." Beatrice gasped, her face flushing red. "How dare you!" Before she could finish, the hospital doors slid open. The bustling noise of the lobby died instantly. Nurses stopped. Doctors froze. Elise walked out. She was no longer wearing the hospital gown. She was wearing a midnight blue silk trench coat that cinched at her waist, hiding any sign that she had just given birth. On her feet were not hospital slippers, but flat, diamond-encrusted loafers. Her hair, usually tied in a messy bun, was loose and cascading down her back. She held the baby in one arm, wrapped not in the standard hospital blanket, but in a cashmere shawl embroidered with a gold crest. A crest Beatrice didn't recognize, but one that smelled of old money. Flanking Elise was the chief of medicine of the hospital, Dr. Thorne. The doctor looked terrified. Ms. Sterling." Dr. Thorne stammered, sweating. "I assure you, we had no idea that you were a patient here. If you had known, you wouldn't have let my ex-husband's mother berate me in my recovery room?" Elise asked, her voice projecting clearly across the silent entrance. "I own this building, Dr. Thorne. I bought the St. Jude's Medical Group 3 years ago as a tax write-off. I expect my staff to protect patients from harassment, regardless of their bank account." "Yes, ma'am. Immediately, ma'am. I'll fire the security team on that floor." Elise stopped under the awning, just a few feet from where Beatrice and Liam stood paralyzed. Liam's eyes were wide, darting from the Bentley to the bodyguards to Elise. "Elle? Where did you get those clothes? Who are these people?" Elise turned slowly. She looked at Liam, then at Beatrice. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked bored. "Arthur," Elise said softly. "Yes, Miss Sterling?" Arthur stepped forward, holding the umbrella over her and the baby. "Miss Sterling?" Liam whispered. "No. Your name is Vance. Elise Vance." "Vance was my mother's maiden name," Elise said coolly. "My father was Alexander Sterling." Beatrice let out a strangled sound. "Alexander Sterling? The shipping magnate, the billionaire who died 5 years ago?" "And left everything to his only daughter," Elise finished. "Me." Beatrice stumbled back, clutching her chest. The color drained from her face so fast she looked like a corpse. The Sterling fortune was legendary. It wasn't just millions. It was billions. It dwarfed the Hawthorne textile business by a factor of 1,000. Beatrice had just tried to bribe a multi-billionaire with $50,000. "No," Beatrice whispered. "That's impossible. You worked at a diner. You wore thrift store clothes." "I wanted to see if Liam was a good man," Elise said, her gaze shifting to her ex-husband. "I wanted to see if he had a backbone. I wanted to see if his family had any honor." She stepped closer to Liam. He smelled of fear. "You failed the test, Liam." "Spectacularly." "Elise, wait," Liam stammered, reaching out a hand, his mind racing. Billions. She was worth billions. "Baby, please. I didn't know. Mom forced me." You know I love you. The divorce, I didn't sign it. We can fix this. Elise looked at his outstretched hand, then down at the baby sleeping in her arms. Arthur, she said. Ma'am? My ex-husband is annoying me. Arthur snapped his fingers. Two of the massive bodyguards stepped forward. One of them, a giant of a man, placed a hand flat on Liam's chest and shoved. It wasn't a violent strike, but the force sent Liam stumbling backward over the curb. He fell hard into a puddle of dirty rainwater, splashing his expensive Italian suit. We are leaving, Elise announced. She walked toward the open door of the Bentley. You can't take her, Beatrice shrieked, finding her voice again. That baby is a Hawthorne. I have rights. Elise paused with one foot inside the car. She looked back over her shoulder, her silhouette framed by the dark interior of the luxury vehicle. She isn't a Hawthorne, Elise said. She's a Sterling. And by the time my lawyers are done with you, the name Hawthorne won't even be enough to get you a table at a fast food restaurant. She slid into the car. The heavy door thudded shut, sealing out the noise, the rain, and the man who had broken her heart. As the convoy peeled away, splashing more water onto the stunned Liam and Beatrice, Elise didn't look back. She picked up the car phone. Get me the acquisition team at Sterling Global, she commanded. What is the target, Miss Sterling? The operator asked. Hawthorne Textiles, Elise said, her eyes flashing. I want to buy their debt. All of it. Call in their loans. I want them bankrupt by Friday. The morning after the incident at the hospital, the sun rose over the Hawthorne estate, a sprawling mansion in the Hamptons that had been in the family for 4 generations. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but sunny. It was chaotic. Beatrice sat in her heavy oak dining chair, clutching a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Her phone had not stopped ringing since 6 a.m. What do you mean? Frozen? Beatrice shrieked into her mobile, her voice echoing through the high-ceilinged room. I am Beatrice Hawthorne. My accounts at First National have been there for 30 years. She listened for a moment, her face turning an ash-gray color. Under review? Irregularities? This is preposterous. I want to speak to the regional manager. Now! She slammed the phone down on the mahogany table, cracking the screen. Liam walked in, looking like a ghost. He hadn't slept. He was still wearing the mud-stained trousers from the day before, having been too drunk on scotch to change. Is it true? Liam asked, his voice hoarse. Did she do it? It's a glitch, Beatrice insisted, though her shaking hands betrayed her. It has to be. Elise, that girl, she can't be a Sterling. The Sterlings are American royalty. Elise ate instant noodles for dinner, Liam. She couponed for laundry detergent. It's a con. It's some elaborate trick. I Googled her, Mom, Liam said, slumping into a chair. He slid his iPad across the table. On the screen was a Forbes article from 5 years ago. The Lost Heiress. Alexander Sterling's daughter steps away from the empire. The photo showed a younger Elise, dressed in couture, standing next to her late father on a yacht in Monaco. She looked radiant, powerful, and untouchable. She went into hiding, Liam whispered. She wanted a normal life. She told me once, on our first date. She said she was tired of people only wanting her for what she could give them. I told her I loved her for her mind. He put his head in his hands. God, I'm an idiot. Stop pitying yourself, Beatrice snapped. So she has money. Fine, we have connections. We have the Vandergelts. Sophia is coming over for brunch. We need to secure that merger today. If we merge with Vandergelt Steel, we'll have enough capital to fight Elise. Just then, the grand double doors of the dining room opened. It wasn't the maid. It was a team of 6 people in sharp gray suits carrying briefcases. Leading them was a woman with severe glasses and a tight bun. Who are you? Beatrice demanded, standing up. How did you get past the gate? The gate code was changed remotely, the woman said calmly. She placed a briefcase on the table, right on top of Beatrice's cold toast. I am Rachel Vance, lead counsel for Sterling Global Holdings. Vance? Liam looked up. Elise's cousin? Her attorney, Rachel, corrected. I'm here to serve you with 2 notices. First, this is a foreclosure notice on the Hawthorne factory in Ohio. It seems you missed 3 payments on the bridge loan you took out last year. We were renegotiating that, Beatrice sputtered. The bank sold the debt yesterday, Rachel said with a thin, shark-like smile. To us. Sterling Global now owns your debt, and we are calling it in full, immediately. We can't pay that, Liam said, panic rising in his chest. That's $12 million. Then we take the factory, Rachel said simply, and the second notice. She slid another document forward. This is an eviction notice for this property. Beatrice laughed hysterically. Eviction? My family built this house in 1920. We own it outright. Actually, Rachel adjusted her glasses. You mortgaged it 3 times to keep the business afloat. The holding company that held the deed? Atlas Ventures? Sterling Global acquired Atlas Ventures this morning at 8 a.m. You are technically squatting on Miss Sterling's property. You have 48 hours to vacate. You can't do this, Beatrice screamed, grabbing a vase and throwing it. It shattered against the wall, but the lawyers didn't flinch. I will sue. I will call the press. I'll tell everyone Elise is a vindictive witch who keeps a father from his child. Rachel's expression turned icy. I wouldn't do that, Mrs. Hawthorne. We also have the surveillance footage from the hospital room. The part where you tried to buy a newborn baby for $50,000. If you go to the press, we release the video. You'll be pariahs before the evening news airs. Rachel signaled to her team. They turned to leave. Oh, one last thing, Rachel said, pausing at the door. Miss Sterling is hosting the Gala of Gold charity event tomorrow night at the Metropolitan Museum. She mentioned that since you enjoy high society so much, you should attend. She wants you to see what real wealth looks like. She dropped 2 tickets on the floor. They weren't handed over. They were discarded like trash. Don't be late! As the lawyers left, the silence in the mansion was heavy. The walls, once a symbol of their status, now felt like a closing cage. Liam stared at the tickets on the floor. She's going to destroy us, Mom. Beatrice's eyes were wild, desperate. No, we still have Sophia. The Vandergelts are powerful too. We go to that gala. We announce the engagement between you and Sophia publicly. We show the world we are not afraid. Elise is just an angry ex-wife. She's emotional. We can outsmart her. Beatrice was wrong. They weren't dealing with an angry ex-wife. They were dealing with a CEO who had just cleared her schedule for revenge. The Metropolitan Museum of Art had been transformed. The steps were covered in a crimson carpet, flanked by walls of white roses. Paparazzi shouted as billionaires, tech moguls, and Hollywood stars ascended the stairs. Beatrice and Liam arrived in a rented limousine. Their personal cars had been repossessed that afternoon. Beatrice wore her best emerald gown, though it was 3 seasons old. Liam wore his tuxedo, forcing a smile onto his face. Clinging to his arm was Sophia Vandergelt. Sophia was beautiful in a sharp, predatory way. She had blonde hair, cold blue eyes, and a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. She knew about Elise, or at least the version Liam told her. The crazy, poor ex-wife. Stop sweating, Liam, Sophia hissed, pinching his arm as they posed for photos. You look guilty. Smile. We are the power couple here. My mother says Elise is planning something, Liam muttered. Let her plan, Sophia scoffed. My father is the senator of New York. What can a new money girl do to us? They entered the great hall. It was breathtaking. Chandeliers dripped with real crystals. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Champagne flowed like water. But the buzz in the room wasn't about the charity. It was about the hostess. Everyone was whispering about the return of the Sterling heiress. I heard she bought an island just to park her yacht, one socialite whispered. I heard she's single, a duke murmured. Beatrice held her head high, steering Liam and Sophia toward the VIP section. Ignore them. We need to find your father, Sophia. We need to announce the merger tonight. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the top of the grand staircase. The music stopped. A hush fell over the 300 guests. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice announced, the chairwoman of Sterling Global, and your host for the evening, Ms. Elise Sterling. Elise stepped into the light. She was breathtaking. She wore a custom gown made of black velvet that seemed to absorb the light, with a slit running up her thigh. Around her neck was the Star of the South, a diamond necklace worth more than the GDP of a small country. Her hair was slicked back, her makeup sharp and fierce. She didn't look like a mother who had given birth 2 days ago. She looked like a war goddess. She descended the stairs slowly, every eye on her. Liam felt his breath catch. This was the woman who used to wear his oversized t-shirts and make him pancakes? She looked like a queen. He felt a pang of intense, agonizing regret. He had traded this for Sophia? Sophia noticed Liam staring. She dug her nails into his arm. "Stop drooling," she snapped. Elise reached the bottom of the stairs. A microphone was handed to her. "Welcome," Elise said, her voice smooth and captivating. "Tonight is about charity, about giving to those who have nothing, because, as I recently learned—" Her eyes scanned the crowd and locked directly on Liam and Beatrice. "Some people are very poor even when they have money. They are poor in spirit, poor in loyalty, poor in love." A ripple of whispers went through the crowd. "I would like to start the night with a special auction," Elise continued, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "I recently acquired a few distressed assets. I thought it would be fun to auction them off. All proceeds go to the Orphans Fund." A large screen descended behind her. An image appeared on the screen. It was a photo of the Hawthorne textile factory. Beatrice gasped. That's our factory!" "Item number 1, Elise announced. A textile factory in Ohio. Formerly owned by the Hawthorne family. It's a bit run down, mismanagement, I'm afraid. Terrible leadership. Do I hear opening bids at $1? The crowd laughed. It was a humiliating, public execution. $1, shouted a man in the back. $2, shouted another. Beatrice was shaking. "She's auctioning our legacy for pocket change." "Stop this," Sophia hissed. "Do something, Liam." Liam, fueled by adrenaline and humiliation, broke away from Sophia. He pushed through the crowd, marching toward the stage. "Elise!" he shouted. The crowd gasped and parted. Liam stood at the base of the stage, looking up at his ex-wife. "Liam," Elise said into the microphone, not looking surprised. "So nice of you to make it. Did you take an Uber?" "Stop this madness," Liam pleaded, his voice cracking. "Please, I know you're angry, but this is my family's life. You can't just sell us off like cattle." "Why not?" Elise asked innocently. "You tried to buy my daughter like a piece of furniture. I'm just returning the favor." The crowd went silent. The revelation hung in the air. Buy her daughter? "That's a lie!" Beatrice shrieked, pushing her way to the front. "She's lying! She's mentally unstable!" Elise gestured to the screen. The image of the factory disappeared. It was replaced by a video. It was the security footage from the hospital room. High definition. Clear audio. "We are offering you a settlement of $50,000. Take the money. The child stays with us." Beatrice's voice boomed through the speakers of the Metropolitan Museum. The crowd turned to Beatrice. The looks of admiration and respect vanished, replaced by disgust. In high society, ruthlessness was expected, but buying a baby from a mother in a hospital bed? That was gauche. That was villainous. Beatrice froze. She felt the social capital she had hoarded for 40 years evaporate in 10 seconds. Elise signaled, and the video cut. "Get out of my party," Elise said, her voice dropping the pleasant facade. "Security?" 4 large men appeared. They didn't gently escort the Hawthornes. They grabbed Liam and Beatrice by the arms. "Wait!" Sophia Vandergelt shouted, stepping forward. She wasn't scared. She was furious. She realized her merger, her meal ticket, was being dragged away. "You think you've won, Elise? You think money makes you untouchable?" Sophia walked up to Elise, her eyes blazing. "I'm Sophia Vandergelt. My family owns the steel that built this city. You might be rich, but you're new. You don't know how this game is played. You declare war on the Hawthornes. You declare war on me." Elise looked down at Sophia. She stepped closer, invading Sophia's personal space. Elise was taller in her heels, dominating the view. "Sophia," Elise said softly, so only the front row could hear. "I didn't declare war on you. You're collateral damage, but if you want to be a target, by all means, step into the ring." Elise turned to the crowd. "Enjoy the champagne, everyone. The Hawthornes are leaving, so the air should smell much cleaner now." As Liam and Beatrice were dragged out, kicking and screaming, Liam looked back one last time. He saw Elise laughing with a handsome European duke, not even sparing him a glance. But the war wasn't over. Outside in the rain, as they were thrown onto the sidewalk, Beatrice adjusted her ruined dress. Her eyes were filled with a poisonous hate. "She humiliated us," Beatrice hissed. "She took everything." "It's over, Mom," Liam sobbed. "We're done." "No," Beatrice said, pulling a wet phone from her purse. "She made one mistake. She kept the baby. The law doesn't care about money, Liam. The law cares about biology. We sue for full custody. We allege she's an unfit mother. We drag her through the mud until she pays us billions just to make it stop." Beatrice dialed a number. "Get me the dirtiest lawyer in New York," she commanded. "I don't care how much it costs. I want that baby." 2 weeks had passed since the gala. Elise settled into her new life, or rather, resumed her old one. She was living in the Sterling penthouse, overlooking Central Park. Maya was sleeping soundly in a nursery designed by top European artists. But Elise wasn't resting. She was in her home office, surrounded by screens. Arthur entered with a silver tray. "Tea, madam," and a package arrived. He held out a manila envelope. It wasn't from a courier. It had been hand-delivered. Elise opened it. Inside was a court summons, custody hearing, Hawthorne versus Sterling, and attached to it were photos. Photos of Elise in her waitress days. Photos of her looking tired, disheveled. Photos that had been doctored to make it look like she was drinking while pregnant. "They're playing dirty," Elise murmured, tossing the photos on the desk. "It gets worse," Arthur said gravely. "Miss Sophia Vandergelt has launched a social media campaign. They are calling you the billionaire brat who stole a father's child. They have bots swarming your company's pages. Sterling Global stock is down 2% this morning." Elise walked to the window. She looked out at the city she practically owned. "Sophia wants a war," Elise said. "She thinks because her father is a senator and her family sells steel, she's untouchable." Elise turned back to Arthur. "Get the jet ready. We're going to Switzerland." "Switzerland, madam, for the banking?" "No," Elise smiled, a dangerous glint in her eyes. "I need to visit an old friend. Someone who knows where the Vandergelt bodies are buried. Sophia thinks she's a predator. She's about to find out she's just a snack." Meanwhile, in a dimly lit office in downtown Manhattan, Liam sat across from a man who smelled of cigar smoke and cheap cologne. This was Marcus Thorne, the dirty lawyer Beatrice had hired. "We have a strong case," Thorne said, tapping the doctored photos. "We paint her as erratic. We use the fact that she hid her identity as proof of deceit. Judges hate liars. We argue that the child deserves a stable family unit, which you and Miss Sophia can provide." "But she has billions," Liam said nervously. "She has the best lawyers on earth." "Money can't buy everything," Thorne grinned, showing yellow teeth. "I have a contact inside her household staff, a nanny she just hired. We're going to plant something. A little evidence, drugs, neglect, something that Child Protective Services can't ignore." Liam felt a knot in his stomach. "Plant evidence? Isn't that dangerous?" "Do you want your fortune back or not?" Beatrice snapped from the corner of the room. "Do you want to be a laughingstock forever? We take the baby, we ransom the baby for half her fortune. It's simple." Liam looked at his mother's twisted face. He realized then that he had crossed a line he could never uncross. "Do it," Liam whispered. The conspiracy was set. They were going to frame Elise Sterling for child endangerment. They didn't know that the nanny they had bribed was already loyal to Elise, and every word they said was being recorded by a microphone taped under the table. Elise wasn't just going to win the custody battle, she was going to send them to prison. The Swiss Alps were freezing, but Elise didn't feel the cold. She sat in a private chalet in Zurich, across from a man known only as the banker. "You ask for dangerous things, Miss Sterling," the banker said, sliding a heavy, leather-bound dossier across the mahogany desk. "The Vandergelt family has used my bank to hide their money for decades. If they find out I gave you this—" "They won't," Elise said, her hand resting on the dossier. "Because by tomorrow, the Vandergelt assets will be frozen by the IRS. Sophia Vandergelt is funding her lifestyle with embezzled pension funds. This proves it." Elise stood up, tucking the dossier into her bag. She had what she needed. Sophia Vandergelt was the financial muscle behind Beatrice's legal attacks. Without Sophia, the Hawthornes were just loud, broke people. Back in New York, the atmosphere was jubilant, at least for the Hawthornes. Beatrice and Liam sat in their lawyer's office, drinking champagne. They had received a text from the mole, the nanny, Sarah, confirming that the package had been planted in Elise's nursery. "It's done," Beatrice gloated, holding up her glass. "The police raid is scheduled for 8 a.m. tomorrow. They'll find illegal substances in the baby's room. CPS will take the child immediately. By noon, we'll have temporary custody." Liam looked at his phone. Sophia isn't answering her texts. "She's probably busy planning the wedding," Beatrice dismissed. "She's going to make you a star, Liam. A senator's son-in-law will be untouchable." The next morning, the sun rose over Manhattan, but the police sirens didn't wail toward Elise's penthouse. At 8 a.m., Beatrice and Liam stood on the sidewalk across from Elise's building, waiting for the squad cars. They waited 10 minutes. 20. An hour. Nothing happened. "Where are they?" Beatrice hissed, dialing Marcus Thorne. "Why hasn't the raid started?" "I don't know." Thorne sounded panicked. "My contact at the precinct said the warrant was pulled. The judge rescinded it at the last second." "Rescinded? How?" Before Beatrice could scream further, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. It was Elise. She looked fresh, rested, and terrifyingly calm. She lowered her sunglasses and looked directly at Beatrice on the sidewalk. She didn't say a word. She just smiled. A small, pitying smile, and tapped her wrist, signaling time is running out. Then the SUV sped off toward the courthouse. "She knows," Liam said, his voice trembling. "Mom, she knows everything." "It doesn't matter," Beatrice snapped, though her hands were shaking. "We still have the custody hearing today. We have the photos. We have the testimony that she's unstable. And we have Sophia." "Where is Sophia?" They arrived at the family court building. It was a media circus. Reporters swarmed the steps. "Is it true you're suing for full custody? Did Elise Sterling really abuse the child?" Beatrice put on her grieving grandmother face for the cameras. "We just want what is best for our granddaughter," she told a reporter, squeezing out a fake tear. "We want to save her from a toxic environment." Inside the courtroom, the air was heavy. Elise was already seated at the plaintiff's table. Next to her was Rachel Vance, her attorney, but there was an empty chair at the defense table. "Where is Sophia?" Beatrice whispered frantically to Liam. "She was supposed to testify about Elise's character." Just then, the double doors at the back of the courtroom burst open. It wasn't Sophia. It was a process server. He walked straight to the defense table and dropped a stack of papers in front of Liam. "Mr. Liam Hawthorne?" "Yes?" "You are being served with a restraining order filed by Sophia Vandergelt. She is also suing you for fraud and emotional distress. She has publicly announced the engagement is off." "What?" Liam gasped, standing up. "Why?" "Because," Elise's voice cut through the room from the other table. She didn't even turn her head. "Because I sent her a copy of her father's Swiss bank records last night. I gave her a choice. Drop the Hawthornes or go to federal prison along with her father. She chose herself, Liam, obviously." Beatrice slumped in her chair. The money was gone. The political connection was gone. "It doesn't matter," Beatrice hissed, gripping Liam's arm until it bruised. "We still have the nanny. We still have the plan. We frame her right here in court." "All rise," the bailiff shouted. Judge Stevens entered. He was an older man, known for being harsh and having zero patience for drama. "We are here to determine the custody of the minor, Maya Sterling." Judge Stevens grunted. "Mr. Thorne, you may proceed." Marcus Thorne stood up, adjusting his tie. He was sweating. "Your Honor, we intend to prove that Elise Sterling is an unfit mother. A woman who deceives her husband about her identity is capable of anything. We have a witness who will testify to the dangerous conditions inside the Sterling home. I call Sarah Miller to the stand." The back door opened again. Sarah, the young nanny, walked in. She looked terrified. Beatrice smirked. "Here it comes," she thought. The nail in the coffin. Sarah took the oath. She sat in the witness box. "Ms. Miller," Thorne began, using his most authoritative voice, "you have been working as the nanny for Elise Sterling for 2 weeks, correct?" "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "And in that time, have you witnessed disturbing behavior? Have you found dangerous items in the nursery?" Sarah looked at Thorne. Then she looked at Beatrice, who gave her a sharp nod, reminding her of the bribe. Then Sarah looked at Elise. Elise gave her a gentle, reassuring nod. Sarah took a deep breath. "No," Sarah said clearly. The courtroom went silent. "Excuse me?" Thorne stammered. "Ms. Miller, please remember you are under oath. Did you not tell me yesterday that you found illegal drugs in the crib?" "I told you that because you paid me to say it," Sarah said, her voice rising. Beatrice gasped. "She's lying." "I am not lying." Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out a check. "This is a cashier's check for $10,000, signed by Beatrice Hawthorne, dated 3 days ago. She told me to plant cocaine in the diaper bag before the police raid." The courtroom erupted. Reporters were typing furiously on their phones. Judge Stevens banged his gavel so hard it sounded like a gunshot. "Order! Order in this court!" Beatrice was on her feet, face purple. "This is a setup. Elise paid her more. That girl is a liar." "Sit down, Mrs. Hawthorne," Judge Stevens roared. He turned to Elise's lawyer. "Ms. Vance, do you have anything to add to this circus?" "Yes, Your Honor." Rachel Vance stood up coolly. "We were aware of the bribery attempt from the moment it happened. Sarah Miller came to us immediately. Together we decided to play along to gather evidence of the conspiracy." Rachel picked up a small remote control. "We requested, and were granted, a warrant to wiretap Mrs. Hawthorne's attorney's office 3 days ago. I would like to play Exhibit A." Rachel pressed a button. The speakers crackled. Then, Beatrice's voice filled the room, clear as day. "Do you want your fortune back or not, Liam? We take the baby, we ransom the baby for half her fortune. It's simple. Plant the drugs. I don't care if the mother goes to jail. I want that money." Then Liam's voice, "Do it." The silence that followed was total. It was the silence of a tomb. Liam sank into his chair, covering his face with his hands. He knew, in that moment, his life was over. Judge Stevens stared at the defense table. His face was red with fury. He didn't look like a judge anymore. He looked like an executioner. "In my 30 years on the bench," Judge Stevens said, his voice low and dangerous, "I have never seen such a disgusting display of greed and malice. You tried to frame a mother? You tried to weaponize this court?" "Your Honor, please," Thorne squeaked. "I was merely following client instructions." "You are disbarred, Mr. Thorne," the judge snapped. "Get out of my sight before I have you arrested for contempt." Thorne grabbed his briefcase and ran. The judge turned his glare on Beatrice and Liam. "Beatrice Hawthorne. Liam Hawthorne. Not only am I granting full legal and physical custody to Elise Sterling, but I am also issuing an immediate order of protection. If you come within 500 feet of that child, you will be arrested." "But," Beatrice started. "I am not finished." The judge slammed his hand on the desk. "I am referring this transcript and the audio evidence to the district attorney. Conspiracy to commit fraud, filing false police reports, and attempted extortion. You aren't going home to your mansion, Mrs. Hawthorne. Bailiff, take them into custody." 2 officers stepped forward with handcuffs. "No!" Beatrice screamed as the cold metal clicked around her wrists. "I am a Hawthorne! You can't do this!" "You are a criminal," Elise said, speaking for the first time. She stood up, looking like a statue of justice. "And you aren't a Hawthorne anymore. The bank took the name this morning." Liam didn't fight. He held out his wrists, tears streaming down his face. As he was led past Elise, he paused. "Hell," he whispered. "I'm sorry." Elise looked at him. There was no hate left in her eyes, only indifference. "I know," she said, "but sorry doesn't buy back loyalty." She turned her back on him. 6 months later. The summer sun shone on the terrace of the new Sterling headquarters in Manhattan. It was a skyscraper of glass and steel, a symbol of the future. Elise sat at a garden table, bouncing Maya on her knee. The baby was chubby, happy, and laughing at a butterfly. Arthur poured a cup of iced tea. "The reports are in, madam." "Read them to me, Arthur." "Hawthorne Textiles has been fully liquidated. The machinery was sold to a startup in Detroit that employs veterans. The factory is profitable again." "Good," Elise smiled. Beatrice Hawthorne pleaded guilty to avoid a 10-year sentence. She received 3 years in a minimum security facility. However, she has declared personal bankruptcy. She is currently assigned to work in the prison laundry. Elise took a sip of tea. The image of Beatrice, who once refused to touch a door handle without a glove, washing prison uniforms, felt like poetic justice. "And Liam?" Elise asked. "Liam was given probation due to his cooperation against his mother," Arthur read. "He is currently working as a shift manager at a shoe store in New Jersey. He sends a letter every week asking to see Maya. The letters are returned unopened, per your instructions." Elise looked down at her daughter. Maya had Liam's eyes, but she had Elise's spirit. "Keep returning them," Elise said. "He made his choice. He chose the money. He doesn't get the treasure." Elise stood up and walked to the edge of the balcony. Below her, New York City bustled. She had everything. Billions of dollars. A thriving empire. A loyal team. But most importantly, she had her freedom. She had walked through the fire of betrayal and come out forged in steel. She wasn't the scared girl in the hospital bed anymore. She was the matriarch. "Arthur," Elise said, turning back to her loyal friend. "Yes, madam?" "Schedule a meeting with the board. I have an idea for a new initiative. A foundation for single mothers. Legal aid. Financial support. I want to make sure no woman is ever handed divorce papers in a delivery room again without having the power to fight back." Arthur smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "A splendid idea, Miss Sterling. Your father would be very proud." Elise kissed Maya's head. "Let's go, little one. We have a world to rule." As she walked back inside, the glass doors closed on the past, leaving the Hawthornes a distant, fading memory. The Sterling legacy had just begun. And that is the story of Elise Sterling. She proved that you should never underestimate someone just because they are kind. And you should definitely never judge a book by its cover, especially when that book has a few $1 billion in the bank. Beatrice and Liam learned the hard way that greed doesn't pay, but loyalty is priceless. What do you think? Did the Hawthornes get what they deserved? Or was Elise too harsh in the end? Personally, I think seeing Beatrice in the prison laundry is exactly the karma she ordered. If you enjoyed this story of revenge and redemption, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share this video with a friend who loves a good drama, and hit subscribe with the notification bell on, so you never miss the next part of our daily drama series. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.